Are you listening? Damn.
On this episode of the Endurance Hour Podcast, episode 339, our December swim challenge, strength training before or after your swim, bike, or run, a follow-up to our trail running topic on how it equals road speed, and we talk about performance anxiety. The Endurance Hour Podcast starts now. We're going to kick off this December episode with introducing you and welcoming 3 new members to the T2 Endurance Club on Facebook. It's a private group, and to join the Facebook group, you need to answer 3 questions, and they are, how'd you hear about us? What kind of events are you training for or are interested in? And do you have a Training Peaks account? And as always, I always ask Wendy, why do we ask about Training Peaks account? Why does that matter?
Well, most triathletes know what Training Peaks is. It's a platform that we as coaches use to create training plans, and you and I have created numerous triathlon, running, biking, and swimming programs on Training Peaks. And again, that kind of just ensures us that they are like into the multi-sport and or endurance athlete type of person. And so that's just a question, we know yes or no.
Yeah.
And a lot of times if they answer, a lot of members who join our T2 Endurance group, it's because they've purchased a plan from us, or I may be coaching them, or they've just seen our videos on YouTube or Instagram, and they just know about us. So we always talk about the T2 Endurance group, so they end up trying to join.
So Jacob is the first one on the list. He said, Wendy's my coach. So apparently, Wendy, you made a post on your Instagram or your Facebook page. What'd you do?
Well, I recently just made a post on my Facebook page about the December swim challenge.
Okay. And
then Jacob I actually thought he was already in our group. Jacob is the one that you originally met, is the athlete that you met, and he did your 30-day strength and conditioning program that you created.
Yeah.
Probably 2 years ago.
Probably so, pre-COVID.
Yeah, and then he was into running, so I started helping him with his running, and now he's doing his first 70.3 next year. He's committed, all signed up for Wisconsin 70.3.
Yeah, I recognize his smile now that you mentioned that. Yeah, Madison 70.3 is what he's training for, and he does have a Training Peaks account. So, Jacob, welcome officially to the group. Next up is Dana, and she says she heard about us through Wendy's post on Play Try. What's Play Try?
So I used to be the coach of the Play Try triathlon team in Colorado, in northern Denver, Colorado. Used to be called Endurance House. And I posted my 21-day swim challenge also in the Play Try Facebook group to try to get people, motivated to swim. And we'll talk about that more in a second.
Okay. And she's training for her first full Ironman. Do you know which one it is?
I don't. I think a bunch of the athletes in the Play Try group are training for possibly Ironman California. They used to have their big group event was Ironman Boulder. And since there's no more Ironman Boulder, I think they all decided to try to join a group of athletes to all go down to California together.
Cool. And yes, she has a Training Peaks account. By the way, Training Peaks accounts are free as are basic. You can upgrade to get different features, but she has one. So welcome to Dana. And last but not least, Cindy. And she heard about the group through Wendy because Wendy's so influential. She's interested in swimming and cycling, and she has a free account. What's your background with Cindy?
I used to be her personal trainer back in Colorado. So when I lived in Colorado, I was a personal trainer at the Fort Collins Health Club, which is no longer. They were actually bought by a different Genesis Health Club, bought Fort Collins Club. Anyway, so I was her trainer for a couple years until I moved to Georgia in 2016. So it's great to reconnect with her. Thank you for joining, Cindy.
3 new members brings our total to 671 exclusive members to the private group on Facebook. So now you know how it works. Request, and then you can see what we got going on. And this is, want to go ahead and continue touching on this. So this December swim challenge, or the swim strength challenge for December. Go ahead and explain what that is.
So a little bit of background. So when I moved to Georgia, I think it was when I moved to Georgia, so it was probably 5 years ago, I got a lot of feedback from a questionnaire I sent out to athletes that were connected to our newsletter about, just questions about what they were struggling with. And a lot of them responded that strength training and swimming was a struggle or a limiter for them. So I decided to create this 21-day challenge where I created a video every day of the workout of the day, which was usually about 30 minutes. And I added one body movement for strength training every day to my workout routine. And so in the end, I had 21 body movements for strength training and 21 different swim workouts. And so my goal was to say, okay, here you go, people. Here's your strength training. If you're new, I just created it for you. And here's 21 workouts you can do. Kind of like the no excuse thing, like just get started with something and I've made it easier for you. And, looking back at those videos, I think we did a, pretty good job. They weren't the best quality because I'm in the pool area videoing myself from my phone, sending them to you to edit them a little bit to put them on. I think we now have them on YouTube. And I just thought it was really fun. And again, I think I did a pretty good job. And then over the years, December just kind of became a swim challenge because swimming is something, obviously most people do it indoors. It's a great winter activity. It's a great cross-training activity for any sport. A lot of multi-sport athletes are weaker in the swim. So I was kind of motivating and encouraging them to commit to some sort of challenge in the month of December. And my friend Kirsten and I do these epic swims on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. So then that whole month of December just became an idea for the last 5 years of launching our December swim challenge to help motivate athletes to do something new, something different, learn a new stroke. Again, something that they could set a goal that's attainable and realistic, yet challenging. Mm-hmm. And I just continued it every December 1st. I launch it, I create an event on Facebook, and I try to get people motivated.
I was motivated after our last podcast based on your Blue 70 discount that you put into the newsletter that we sent out every week, which you can find on everymanendurancehour.com, at least a link to sign up for it. And I was looking through and trying to look at the discounts, like was it, I don't know if it's 20 or 30%. And for new members, I think it's like 40% based on certain items that Blue 70 has to offer. And I got these I've had this Hydrovision, I think is the type of goggle I have from Blue 70. I've had it for years and it's been great. It's the most durable one I've had and it fit me the best. Yet the strap broke off and I MacGyvered an old strap into that strap. It looked terrible. It's a white strap, but the goggles are gray, so it looks really dorky. Anyways, I was going and looking at the discount and go, let me see what I can get. So I bought 3 new pair of Hydrovision, same brand because it fits so well, goggles. And I upgraded my core shorts to their new Unisex lift shorts. It's very similar to the core shorts, and I think core shorts either the size wasn't available. I can't remember why I didn't get those. And I wanted to get something a little different. And these are the all-new lift shorts. And it takes the original core short buoyancy, it says, to the next level. So the redesign, and it's a little bit longer. It's got a funky look to it. Have you seen these yet?
Yeah, I have. I haven't looked at them in a while,
Okay.
But I remember when they were launched by Blue 70, and I was curious like what the difference was. But since I'm not a wetsuit person, I didn't purchase them or anything. So that's good feedback.
Well, the reason why the purpose of core shorts, and we talked about this last podcast, is I swim exclusively with the core shorts and or swim buoy because we were talking about why do flip turns if you don't do flip turns in open water racing? Why not have core shorts or pull buoy in training if that's all you're going to be in real racing conditions? Like I was wondering, I'm not a very good kicker. My legs sink, but if I do this, it simulates real racing conditions. So that's how I always swim. I wanted to upgrade. That's why I was looking into these. Mm-hmm. These mimic their Helix wetsuit, but for just about above your knee to your waist. So they're a shorter one, and I guess maybe provides maximum buoyancy. It might be. They say it's these shorts are the best performing, quote, wearable pool buoy that they've designed. So when I get it, which arrives here pretty soon, I'll give you a little recap afterwards. But anyways, if you want to get the discounts, and Blue 70 is not the only discount that we have as Endurance Hour. Sign up for the newsletter on our website.
So since we're on the topic of swimming, let's talk about strength training for swimmers. And I want to read some comments that I've received from athletes that I coach in their Training Peaks logs. They kind of all tie together. So I just wanted to mention a few key points on the pros and cons of strength training for swimmers. Athlete number 1, he said, I'm looking to do some strength work to help me getting back to my swim form I had not so long ago. Athlete number 2, I'm definitely stronger from all the weight training. And this athlete actually took 6 months off swimming and was just solely doing strength training. He said he's able to push more in the later phases of the stroke with less exertion. And then athlete number 3 said he's starting to feel good. He really needs to strengthen his arms. He can feel his arms getting more and more tired as the swim progresses. And then he commented how he's going to bring his dad's Total Gym back with him because he thinks it's the perfect swim strength machine. And then he described some movements that he does. Now, again, these all came within the last couple weeks. And, I just want to mention, the importance of strength training for any sport, and especially for, like the multi-sport athlete. And it's also important to note that there's not really swim-specific movements that you can do with machines, dumbbells, or barbells. Back in 2020, I did a 30-day challenge for myself on Facebook that I was doing swim technique with resistance bands. And, through those Facebook Live videos, I was actually doing what I thought was very swim-specific strength training with the bands. But I was also talking about technique as I was using these bands. And so, and I was actually really sore because of it. And I was strengthening the specific muscles that are used in the water, primarily your lats, rear delts, and triceps. And I thought they were a really good movement. Yet at the same time, I don't think strength training replaces swimming. And so if you're someone who's only swimming 1 or 2 days a week and you have the ability to swim more, you should swim more, and that's how you're going to get stronger in the water. Because when you swim, you're incorporating technique, endurance, and a feel for the water is so important. And then you progress to using paddles to develop some strength, and then you progress to doing like some tempo, threshold, and speed workouts. So it's definitely a progression. Just by doing strength training, and most people know traditional strength training, that does not necessarily mean you're going to improve your swim times in the water. I think strength training definitely complements any athlete. And it's also important to note that one thing that's really going to be beneficial for swimmers to do out of the water is mobility, working on their ankle mobility, their shoulder mobility, thoracic spine mobility, and their core for rotation. But not, again, I think it just depends on your experience in the water. Someone like me, I did a lot of more heavy strength training during the last few months leading up to Ironman Florida because I knew I was swimming in the ocean. And I attribute my success in that, that turbulent swim was because I was really strong. But I'm a swimmer. I have really good technique. So if you're someone who doesn't have the best technique, I'm going to recommend you spend more time in the pool before you spend too much time in the weight room. If you're someone with good technique and you just want to change a pace and you want to get stronger, well, then definitely cut out some pool time, add some strength training time.
What about strength training before or after your swim?
That's a really good question as well. So I think for me personally, again, it just depends on the athlete's experience, how strong of a swimmer or not they are, how strong of a weightlifter they are, what's their experience in the weight room, what are you going to do in the weight room before or after you swim. I think, or bike or run or any endurance sport, I think doing the swimming before the strength training session's a really good warm-up, which I appreciate. As I get older, I appreciate the warm-ups more than I did when I was younger. I think it just works on my mobility, my flexibility, and I'm ready to lift at full range of motion when I'm more warmed up. And at the same time, if you do strength training before you swim, your swimming technique might break down sooner if you're working on technique. I know my endurance and my speed are lower if I swim after strength training. And that just depends on, am I swimming, am I doing a weight room workout and then jumping in the pool afterwards, or am I doing a weight room workout in the morning and swimming in the evening? Well, if I have a half a day between sessions, then my swim in the evening's kind of normal. I don't feel the effects of the weight workout that I did in the morning. So it definitely just depends on, experience, your ability, and the phase of training you're in. A lot of times I like to do the strength training on the day I'm doing a more intense activity in my sport. So if I was in like a phase of training where I was doing heavy, intense, let's just say swim workouts, well, I would like to do my strength training on the same days, because if I'm fatiguing my arms or my body, my lats, my muscles, I want them fatigued one day, so the next day is a total recovery day where I'm not doing the strength training to fatigue my muscles. Mm-hmm. But that really changes depending on the time of year. Like right now, out of season for most athletes, I think strength training should be a priority. Therefore, that should be done first. For the majority of athletes, again, it just depends on who you are and what your focus and what your goals are. But I like to strength train first now in case I don't have time to do anything else. At least I checked off the box that I got my strength session in. And I'm just trying to I'm trying to build muscle and become an overall stronger athlete right now anyways.
You know how there are different planes of exercise movements that you can do, and when you're swimming, you're limited to the horizontal, and of course you're going, vertical, and when you're putting your hand in the water and then you're pushing back. But I think the strength training, or whether you're using bands or free weights or TRX or something else, allows your body to move in different directions that could be those stabilize your muscles that would help complement your swim form, or at least limit the fatigue in other areas where if you have a stronger core and you're not using core as much in your swim for whatever reason, then those things you do outside the pool will help reinforce that.
Yes. Yeah, that was actually, you actually said that was really good. So when you're out of the pool, again, like I said, you should be working on mobility because you don't really do that in the water. Yeah. But you're also doing injury prevention stuff. A lot of what most of us know is like internal and external rotation of our shoulders. Yeah. The flexibility, mobility of your ankles to provide a better kick. Your core, the area front and back between your hips and your shoulders. And just doing stuff out of the pool, dry land, resistance training, weight training. It's also dry land training. Doing that stuff that's going to complement what you're getting in the water.
Yeah, I'm thinking right now like front raises with a dumbbell that you bring the hand, your hands down by your knees or something. You raise straight up. You don't really get that same motion in the pool. You might get something that goes downward, and maybe lateral raises, working your deltoids there, where you don't necessarily use that full range of motion in the pool. Of course, you have rotation, but it's a different rotation as you're lifting your arm out of the water versus straight out to your side. And I was thinking when you were mentioning about paddles and strength training, I strongly encourage and I support the idea of strength training outside the pool. But I can also see making a swim workout strength training specific by just using paddles, or you're going one arm at a time, and maybe not hype. I don't know what the right term is, but maybe doing some hard interval works with paddles. Give yourself some chance to rest after that, but you're doing it with the intent and the purpose of let's make this a strength workout to work on the cardio and your muscles versus let's do some smooth distance per stroke. We're going to work hard, putting some fins on, making it a full body strength workout that day.
Yeah, I think the best swimming specific resistance training is wearing paddles in the water.
I love them. Yeah.
Again, as long as your technique's good, because if you have poor technique where you're dropping that elbow during the pull phase of the stroke, then if you have paddles on, that could hurt your shoulder. But if you also, on the same note, if you put paddles on, that can help you with that high elbow catch followed by your push. So every answer to all our questions always just depends on the athlete's experience and what their goals are and what they're trying to accomplish.
Wouldn't you recommend, I'm kind of setting you up for this one, is go for technique over speed? Because, you're talking about the fatigue in someone's arms. Their arms are sore or tired, or their lats are sore, or they feel like they're fatiguing things too soon. And I think maybe they're just trying too hard, whereas they slow down and just do technique and don't worry. And I'm guilty of this as well. I'm looking at my time, my splits. Oh, I got to go faster than this. Then I go faster. But my form isn't any better. I'm just going faster. Therefore, if I go slower and only focus on the form, so what? I did 28 strokes per 25. I'm getting a better quality swim workout versus just going for time.
Exactly. Now, I'm glad you brought that up, because that specific swimmer that said he really needs to work on strengthening his arms because his arms are getting more tired as the swim progresses, he's very new to swimming, and I keep encouraging him, if you have more time to swim, and I understand pool time can be not available for a lot of people. There's a lot going on at the pool, especially if you're at a YMCA, you have all those group classes going on. But he's still so new, he still needs to put more time and work on his technique and slow down and then gradually add the resistance training in, but don't replace the swimming in place of resistance training unless you show up to the Y and you can't swim, but you can lift weights instead. Oh yeah, definitely do weights if you can't swim due to pool availability.
I don't want to ignore the other two sports. I know we're very strong and our expertise is a lot stronger in swimming, but the cycling and the running things too, with these having the patience and discipline to work on different techniques versus just the workout, whether it's one-legged spins on the bicycle, whether it's the forward lean or working on cadence, even though you may not be going faster on the run. Can you speak to any of those other two disciplines on the importance of strength training before or after, or how you use strength training in your workouts? Hills, for example, on running or cycling.
So that's a really good question. So when it comes to like a progression in your season, we're in December. Now's the time to be building up strength with weights. And then as you approach the spring, for most people, the springtime is when the weather's nicer to get outside, get on hilly terrain, do more sport-specific strength. You want that, I like to say, transfer that strength that you developed in the weight room, transfer that into your sport in the form of hills. You can also do hill running on the treadmill. You can do a lot of hiking out in the woods. You can do big gear intervals on the bike while maintaining like a moderate zone 2, zone 3 RPE 4 to 7 effort intensity range. You could be doing that indoors as well. And I really think for me, I'm focusing on building more strength in my legs more than previous years, because I believe that to be a limiter a little bit for me on the bike. I'm a decent cyclist. I love to ride my bike. But when I compare myself to my competitors, I'm getting crushed on the bike. I have more swimming and running ability in the multi-sport world and less cycling ability compared to my competitors. So I'm trying something new, and I'm hitting it harder in the weight room to develop that pure leg strength with squats, deadlifts, those power, those bigger muscle group power type of movements. And I'm also doing the trail running, but when I do ride, and my riding is limited right now, I'm pushing more lower gear, 50 to 60 RPM ranges at the proper intensity to continue with that leg strength for my biking. And I also believe that's also going to help me as a trail runner. So there's a lot of things going on. I mean, that's why people hire coaches, is because there's a lot of information to work with, and there's a lot of ways to get the same adaptation that you're trying to get. So number one, you got to look at the goal. You got to look at the intention of the workout and what you're trying to get out of it. And based on the intention of that workout, there's a different ways that you can adapt the workout to get the same intention.
I was trying to go through a simulation in my head on the Peloton indoors and doing a climbing session where I put it as high as I could go, whether it's 90% or 100%, and just climb out of the saddle the entire time thinking, if I do this, based on the course I'm training for, and that's important, I know this is a 2-mile climb at a really high incline or percentage. So if I know it's going to take me 8 to 12 minutes to go up this, let me practice what that feels like and mentally and be disciplined in staying out of the saddle for those 12 minutes. That way I'm confident and I'm prepared mentally for that segment when race day comes. Same thing with running. And as a tip that I learned a long time ago is, if you're on a treadmill, give yourself 1.5 to 2% incline always, so you can simulate some sort of gravity. Otherwise, if you're at 0% incline, you're a hamster. And the other day I was, I don't know if I was at 3 or 4 or 5. I don't know if I was walking or kind of a light little jog, like a 12-minute pace. I was like, let me go at a higher incline to work the heart harder, so I can just get a workout in and burn some calories, but also build into that I'm running uphill for a duration that I know that on the course I'm going to be running, there will be some inclines. And how long will those inclines take? It may just look pretty short, but when you get climbing on, let's say on a bike, it's like, oh my God, that looks so far away. It's only a mile. It's only a mile. I can see the full thing, but it's going to take me 6 minutes. It's going to take me 7 minutes. And what's that feel like? And if I know what it feels like going into it, I'm more confident. I'm more relaxed. My expectations are realistic, and I don't mentally get beat before or during the race.
Yep.
So those are some things I would suggest too, is, get out of the saddle in those training sessions, get the big gear like Wendy said, and go, lower cadence, but prepare yourself for more power and make that workout specific.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with strengthening your legs. I mean, the strength that you attain, whether it's from hills or in the strength training in the weight room, will also benefit you on any terrain. It'll benefit you on the flats as well. So whatever you need to do to get stronger, there's a lot of ways to get stronger. You just got to find something that's realistic and attainable based on your experience and your life schedule.
I also subscribe to the philosophy that bike fitness equals run fitness. And you have learned that trail running fitness equals run fitness and speed. Can you give us a quick story on how your trail running has helped you PR at the 5K distance on road races?
Yeah. So on our last podcast, we were talking about the benefits of hill running and trail running and how it translates to speed, because strength precedes speed no matter what sport you're in. So it's important to get stronger before you do any type of speed work to maximize that speed work. So I recently did a 5K, the Thanksgiving Day Run 5K, and I was thinking, I just trained for an Ironman. I've had a couple weeks of, kind of low-key recovery stuff. I'm going to go as hard as I can because I have nothing to lose, and I'm probably going to go maybe 21 and a half minutes. I'll be happy with breaking 21 and a half minutes. And I knew that was attainable because on Labor Day, the race out, the 5K, I was actually going to try to run under 20 minutes. I did 2018, and I was really happy with that. I'm like, okay, I was pretty close. Do I really train for 5Ks? No, but based on my training, I know what I'm capable of in a 5K. So this race started. It was in Marietta Square. We'd never ran this course before, and I saw the last mile because I was watching my friends do the 10K, which was before the 5K, and I saw this hill, and I'm like, oh, dang it, there's a hill in this course. That's going to slow me down. And then at the start of the race, I'm like, well, if there's a hill at the end, that means there's downhill in the beginning. So I just took off, and I really worked the downhill, and I never fell apart. My splits were all like 620, 619, 625 per mile, even on that uphill. And I attribute that, and I broke 20 minutes. My official time was 19:57. And I was really happy with that because I wasn't expecting it. But the way I felt during that whole 5K, I just felt really strong. And I attribute my speed to all the hill work I've done and the mileage and the fitness that I developed through Ironman training. Obviously I also have 30 years experience, yet at the same time, I think if anyone puts in the time to get stronger and run hills and run as many hills as you can have access to, especially now, easy, walk up the hills, run up the hills, jog up the hills, however you want to, that will create the strength you need for speed.
It sounds like your mindset was in a good place as well. Going into it, let's have some fun, no expectations, relaxed, give it your all, and you did it. You exceeded your expectations. You really didn't have high expectations. You just went for it.
I just went for it. I'm like, I have nothing to lose. This is just a fun day, a fun holiday tradition, And there's something to be said about mindset. I think mindset impacts us as athletes more than we realize. And the more experience you get with training and competition, the more you learn about your mindset and what's working for you and what's not.
That is the biggest struggle, I think, mindset. I've had my ups and downs that are non-triathlon related, but in sport, in competition. And it's when I'm feeling comfortable, relaxed, and the pressure is off myself, I'm nailing it. And then sometimes I build up my pressure. It's like, I'm for example, my dart game, I'm playing darts and I'm playing really well right now. But I go against certain people, and this one guy who's really, really good. He's actually a pro, and I cracked. I cracked. Actually, I shot better than I've ever shot before, but I had some moments where I was not doing so well because we play darts remotely. It's like a video game machine, dartboard, and below is a screen, and you can see they have a webcam, and you can see them because we play remotely. Other people, we have a team here in Spokane that I play with. My partner and I play against him and somebody else, and I can see him, and I know him. I've played against him before, but because I'm playing against him, and I already know he's a professional, I want to play better, and then I'm not relaxed. I'm trying to perform really good. I almost want to impress him. It's like, I'm going against this guy. I gotta do well. He's watching me, and all this internal pressure threw off my game. And then after a while, I was like, all right, just play. And then I ended up playing super good statistically, but in that I learned, and I'm still learning because I'm going to play him again Monday, is that I gotta just play my game and not let the perceived status throw me off. So there's that mindset. I hope you guys can apply that or understand what I'm trying to say, is that you can be your own victim of your lack of or overconfidence.
Yeah, I think if you go into a performance setting like an event and you go into it like, it's just another day of training, maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit shorter, depending on what your event distance is. And you remember that you're doing this because you enjoy it, and keep that enjoyment. Like I've talked about this before. I used to be a nervous wreck as an age group swimmer. And when I started triathlon, I would still get really super nervous, performance anxiety, and all that stuff. And then one day I decided I don't want to feel this way anymore. And when I made that decision to say, well, what do I need to do to not feel this way anymore? I love to train. I don't like to compete. That's when I made the mindset of, well, competition is just another day of training. Just go out there and do what you love to do, which is training. And that was a game changer for me. And so I think, athletes who struggle with anxiety or performance anxiety, first you got to identify, what are you anxious about? What is it that's causing you to have this anxiety? And then once you come to realize what that is, then you can take the necessary steps to figure out how to overcome it.
What the thing is for me is that it matters in competition, and we play with 3 darts at a time. Every dart counts in practice, and I work on this in practice. I work on the same routine, the same approach, the same pacing, in trying to imagine how can I repeat this every time, and then translate that same attitude, that same body language in competition and not let outside influences bother me. And I play downstairs in my basement, and my kids it's also my workout room. They run by me sometimes. And as much as as distracting as it is, I welcome it because it helps me focus on throwing. And if you've done anything where you have to throw, a certain motion with your hand over and over and over again, anything that throws you off, whether it's your posture, your stance, your focus in your hand movement, any little motion, because you're talking about millimeters in difference between hitting the mark and not hitting the mark. It can mess with your head. So even if my wife is, not mocking me, she's just heckling me just for the fun of it, I need that because these distractions, I have to learn to block them out, even if they're just for fun or if they're for serious. And I'm still trying to find that where if I play someone like the guy I'm going to play, it's like, how can I treat this like practice? It's not practice anymore. It's hard to go from those two extremes of it matters or it's practice. You follow?
In practice, it matters because you're practicing for the competition, so it matters even more. That's how my mind works. That's my mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess the consequences are different. Maybe that's what it is. I'm aware of the consequences. I miss. Not that I care about losing. I care about being accurate over and over again because I play him. I'm not going to win per se, but I want to be accurate, and that's the hard thing.
And the more accurate you are in training, the more accurate you'll be on competition day.
And I will say this: when you play someone who's better, it elevates your performance as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Although in golf, a month ago, I played it with this guy. I just picked up. This is when I was. Oh yeah, during I'm in Florida. I was in Florida. I played with a guy who wasn't that good. I was better than him, and I played better than him. And the next day, I played with a guy who used to work at a golf course, and he was killing it. This guy's 20 years older than me, he's killing it, and I played horrible because I was trying to match his play and not play my game. And in golf, I played the first 9 holes. I was terrible. Second 9 holes, I stopped keeping score, and I got better because I gave up. I gave up on trying to be something I'm not. I played my game versus trying to play against him. Again, I hope anything you can draw from these things is in golf, it didn't work playing up to my competition. In darts, it did for some reason for me. Hope we gave you some fun stuff to talk about or think about today. Join us in the T2 Endurance Club. That's always a cool place to go, and I hope you guys enjoyed the December Swim Challenge. Jump in anytime. It doesn't just have to be December, but you can follow the link that Wendy put there on Facebook, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, December is upon us. Anything else before I close up? No more?
I'm just thinking. I think we touched on everything we wanted to touch on.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, thank you for listening and watching this week. Until next time, I'm Dave. This is Wendy. Have a great one. Adios.
Adios.